Hey everybody, Anish Majumdar here, career coach to the fiercely ambitious, back at you to address a question that's been on the minds of a lot of our readers and our listeners and followers, which is, Anish, I'm getting that first interview. I consider myself lucky because whatever I'm doing, it's enough to get me in the door, it's enough to get me FaceTime, but nothing else after that. Like, it is just crickets right after that. What am I doing wrong? What am I doing right? But also, it's not right enough, right? Because it's not going the distance, right? None of us are in the market building relationships with people, answering job postings just to get a first interview. We want to get offers. So what has gone wrong here? And here's the thing, and here's why I think this video is so important for you to learn, okay? Diligent people will ask for feedback. They'll say, okay, great. Well, thank you for letting me know. I'm disappointed to hear that, of course. Can you give me a couple of reasons behind that decision? And employers, recruiters will tell you everything under the sun. We ultimately just wanted this. We ultimately just wanted that. We wanted this. We wanted that. Very little of it is actionable. And I'm here to tell you something. If you were qualified enough to get in the door, a couple of different actions, the awareness of a couple of different things should give you enough to get all the way there. Otherwise, you never would have gotten that first one anyway. So I'm here to really fill in this blank and really talk about what they're not willing to tell you, okay? About why they passed on you, what you need to do better. And I don't want you to get discouraged either, because every successful person over time, what they've understood is the very same things that frustrate others, they've learned and trained themselves to get excited by, because they see that not as a evidence that something has gone wrong, but truly as an evidence that something has gone right. And I strongly encourage you, if you're in this place, look at what you're doing right. You got this far. You got all the way in where valuable, high-level people at companies that you're interested in, ideally, right, fascinated by, they want FaceTime with you, okay? So you've got a lot of fundamentals probably working well for you. So let's put the finishing pieces here, and let's talk about what they're not going to tell you, okay? Number one, okay, in terms of this, and I'm going to be checking my notes here in the screen, behind the screen, as it were, okay? The first reason, the most important reason, the most obvious reason, the one that most people get wrong. You went into this first interview with the wrong goal. If you were to ask 10 people on the street, what is your goal in that first interview with an employer? What are they going to tell you? I wanted to prove that I'm the best person for the job, or some variation, right? I want to show them that I'm the best person. What that means in real life is that you're eager, willing, and able to pitch. But that is not what they want there. And that is not what your goal should be as a credible expert in what you do. Your goal for a first interview, repeat after me. The goal of a first interview is to gather the right knowledge. That's it. It's not to prove that you're the best. Okay? It's not to prove that you can win out. It's too early in the day to be talking about that stuff, to be talking about where I match up and whether I can do it. Your first job as a credible person is to do what a doctor would do. Does a doctor come into a room and before you say word one, they start giving you needles and start prescribing things to you? No, of course not. They sit, they listen, they ask the right questions, and they take it from there, right? They build a plan of treatment from there. Adopt that way of thinking, okay? So what does that mean? The bulk of your preparation before a first interview should not be on answering gotcha questions. It should not be about answering the same crap that isn't going to help you either. It should be about building out a bank of questions that you can draw from and use as the basis of your entire first interview. It's not just you sitting down, sliding the resume over and waiting around. Right? And it's not you pitching. It's about you getting to work, okay? What if you had that 1 hour interview, right? Or hour and a half interview, or whatever that is, right? Zoom, in person, it doesn't matter, right? The principle is the same. What if you had that time to learn as much as possible? And what you learned was going to be the leverage that you needed to move towards an offer. See, listen, guys, people think that the whole hiring process is about you trading off half-hearted stories and success stories from 5 years ago, 10 years ago to prove that you can do their job today. The first interview is where you're going to get the new knowledge of what they're specifically dealing with, as well as a couple of other things. And that's what you're going to focus every follow-up, every interview after that, all the way to an offer. And because people miss on that, they get rejected. And if they don't get rejected then, they'll definitely get rejected later on because they never switched into the different gear that the person who's going to land the offer has to switch into. So the reason number one, okay, your goal of going in there should be to gather the right information. Create what's called a question bank, right? All sorts of questions related to where they're going, what the path is of this interviewer, right? What their decision making is, what are their ops like, what are their strategy like. Think holistically. Just because you're in HR doesn't mean that the only questions you have are HR. Think like a partner to that business. What do you need to know that'll give you a real lay in the land? Because there's no company on God's green earth right now that is hiring unless there is desperate, urgent pain. You've got to figure out what that is, because chances are they're not going to tell you that right off the bat. They're not going to tell you that in a job seeker, in a job posting. It's up to you as the expert to get real, get urgent, and ask the right questions to gather that out. You should leave that first interview with at least 3 to 5 major nuggets of information about what is really going on that will form the pretext of where you take things. If you haven't, you have failed in your mission in that first interview. Number 2, okay? No rapport. It sounds so obvious, but guys, it's not worth you talking word one about your history or this role or anything unless the person next to you genuinely has started that process of liking you, of relating to you, of talking to you in a real warm fashion, of talking to you in an intimate fashion, of sharing that side of themselves that is not just a hiring manager, but is a human being. How are you going to do that? Leave it to them to make it professional. Share a story about your family. Share a story about what you're obsessed with, what you're a nerd about what's been going on. Share just a moment of, if you're feeling anxious, let them know, right? Let the person that you're speaking with know, honestly, I'm used to high-level project management, and, my wife tells me I've got nerves of steel there, but I definitely don't have nerves of steel for this, Really excited about this, but I hope you'll excuse the shaky voice, and you'll take it as a mark of enthusiasm, There's nothing like that, Show up ready to and here's something that'll help you build that rapport. In the first 2 minutes of the call, of the meeting, ask yourself, what can I genuinely love and appreciate about this person? Have their LinkedIn profile up and really bring that way of thinking. What can I love? What can I appreciate? What can I celebrate about this person? Okay? And only then, once there's that easy interchange and the ice has been broken, should you be moving forward. If that's not there, nothing else is going to work. I've had calls where literally it's been an hour long. I spent 50 minutes of that call building rapport, because basically the person was like this. The minute they go down, I got to do this much work to move them forward, right? If I don't, I'll never get past it. Right? So number 2 is there's no real rapport. Rapport was not built, or rapport was lost during that first interview, which is why you did not get that second. Number 3, okay, you did not identify and reinforce what got you in the door in the first place. Look, there's something about what you put out there, whether you built the relationship first, whether you sent your resume, however you did it, right? Whether they found you on LinkedIn, there was something about your history, something about who you are in particular that really resonated. Your job in that first interview is to find out what that is, right? So pay particular attention, really listen and use what's called sensory acuity to pick up on not just what they're saying, their intonations, their vibe, what makes them raise an eyebrow. When you talk about one part of your history or one that, if they ask a follow-up, boom, make a note of that, okay? They really, really like my culture change ability. They really like my IT background. They're really weak in that, right? You've got to find what those things are so you can reinforce it, not just in that first conversation. Every time you follow up, every time you take that forward, you want to take what you've identified and use that as a leverage point, I believe that my unique background in IT, 10 plus years in software engineering, is going to lend you guys a perspective that you've never had in this organization. And in addition to everything else we're talking about, that's going to be the secret sauce, right? So you've got to identify that. You've got to identify why they took an interest. You've got to reinforce that. You've got to make them feel good about that, right? So as you identify that, share more stories, go back to that, share the competitive advantages of that, make them feel right for that, okay? So those are the big 3. And here's the last one, okay? I'm going to give you a free one. You played it too safe. Right? In every interview, you've got to have 2 or 3 moments on the other side where they're like, damn, dude, challenge something, say no to something. No, that's a mistake. No, I don't think you can wait. No, I don't think you need to move there. Can I suggest something? Can I make a request? All right. Look at this in a totally different way. You've got to have 2 or 3 moments where you challenge or change their thinking, even in a big way or a small way in that first one. If not, you haven't shaken it enough to differentiate yourself. Okay. So go back through this video. These are the 4 points. Wrong goal, no rapport, did not identify and reinforce what got you in the door, and you played it too safe, all right? If you want to keep this journey going, the next place you need to go to is helloanish.com, HELLOANISH.com. I've synced up more free videos that are going to give you information you're not getting anywhere else, and I'm going to have a brand new masterclass up there that you can take, all right? Helloanish.com. Thank you, guys.